Hello, hello! I did promise I would return to the Friedrich der Große when I had it fully upgraded, and it is in fact fully upgraded now, and I think I have 1 or 2 captain points more since I've been able to grind it out. I am on Potato, which is my Russian account, since this is the one I'm leveling the German battleship line on, since my viewers voted for the German battleship line on this server. Now, first of all, I'm going to combine this commentary a bit with some general positioning for the German battleships, or well, battleships in general, but it tends to apply especially to German battleships. First of all, you notice that I'm pushing full speed, instantly pushing towards the cap, pushing north. Now this seems like a very simple thing. The objective is in front of us, our DDs are pushing north, our cruisers are pushing north, so naturally we push full speed to back them up. This seems like a simple thing, but this is something a lot of battleships don't do. They turn away, they drag their feet quarter speed. There's tons of these things that somehow they slow themselves down so they don't have as big of an so they don't get as close to a cap at the start, and this is a huge mistake. You want to push close, you want to be able to support your Kagero, you want to be able to help your Kagero. We only have one DD on this side of the map, and we want to help him as much as possible. A Donskoy tried pushing in, and a Donskoy of course has radar and railguns. He could be a huge threat to my Kagero, so I shoot him as soon as I spot him. He turns away, forced to flee. So this is already my presence. The fact that I pushed up, this is already my presence impacting the survivability of my Kagero, because this Donskoy has to bail. And also this Z46, I'm now close enough, I'm within 10 km, my secondaries can open up fire, and I can use my main guns to deal some absolutely ridiculous damage to this Z46. So this Z46 is now completely wrecked. He has no more health left, he has no more anything left, he's forced to flee and bail, and our Kagero, who was against multiple radars, Donskoy and Moskva, and possible Hydro from the Z46, all these threats, he's forced to bail, he's able to now completely cap out this A-cap for my team. And that's mostly because of my impact. Moskva, once he tries to do some similar things, push in, threaten us, or threaten my team, whatever, I bully him away. Because he doesn't want to stay there, he gets Citadel giving me broadside. So ultimately, yes, they're shooting me, yes, they're spamming some HE my way, but ultimately they are fleeing. They are running for their lives, because neither of those two want to have anything to do with me. Worth noting is they did in fact have an Izuma on this side. You see that there's an Izuma who spawned on this side of the map, just like I spawned on this side of the map. But that Izuma has decided instantly from the start to flee. Instead of pushing in to back up his Z46 and back up his Donskoy the way I did, that Izumo turned hard left, or well, from our point of view, hard east, and started fleeing from this side of the map right from the start. Because of that, there's nothing stopping me. There was nothing stopping me pushing up. There was no counter battleship to to prevent me from pushing in and from bullying them away. And I mean, if you compare my positioning, and then let's say look at the Izumo on my team. Look at the Izumo on my team. We can see him on G2. That Izumo is obviously no threat at all. He's playing extremely passive. He's parked behind an island. He's full health, he hasn't taken any damage, and that's not how you battleship. You want to be this bully, this physical presence, this threat that forces them away. I wrecked the DD, I forced away both the radar ships, and with the Izuma not there to stop me from doing this, well, there's not much they can do. This Donskoy is trying to now push in through another angle, which is pushing into B. So I'm like, okay, no, you're not going here. I'm pretty much like a bouncer at this point. And I've forbidden any cruiser from getting anywhere close to my DDs. This Donskoy, once again, I have a gearing here, I have a Tashkent here. This Donskoy could easily push in and start causing havoc with my DDs, but I'm not gonna allow him. Oh yeah, I'm being shot at. Oh no, that's my job as a battleship. I mean, I'm taking a bunch of damage, but better it's me taking this damage than my teammates taking this damage. So this Donskoy is getting absolutely wrecked by my secondaries, getting wrecked by my main guns, and instead of this gearing and Donskoy being able to push into this cap and only facing a gearing, they're facing me, a battleship, and I'm melting them. And the Donskoy does try to focus the gearing, but with all the focus fire coming down on him, I got fire started on, my secondaries are burning. I'm hoping to even get a double strike here, The Tashkent does burn him down, but I kill the Gearing. And now I'm down to half health. Who cares? I still have 45k, 46k health left, and I have just annihilated both their DDs. I completely wrecked both their radar cruisers, and any sort of presence they hope to get on the map, well, I have denied it. Because I'm straight from the start, I pushed my way in and I bullied them. And this is something Battleship players in general struggle to understand. This physical presence that you have on the map and this threat you can exude on the map. If you push in, a cruiser has no other option than to flee. A cruiser can't stay there and fight you 1 versus 1 in the open. You are going to melt that cruiser. So the cruiser has to turn away and flee. And DDs, well, if the cruiser backup flees, it's DD plus battleship against DD. So obviously the DDs also have to flee. So ultimately the only thing that really actively counters an aggressive battleship pushing in like this is the same thing happening on the other side in the form of the enemy battleship. But of course this Izumo starting the game by turning away, which you see very often. You see very often when you start the game. On some maps you see battleships, instead of pushing in behind their team, they kind of turn straight left or straight right, and then they sail around there in the back line trying to snipe and something. And if the enemy team has any sort of aggressive battleship players like I am, I love playing aggressive in my battleships. That's why I got these high tier battleships, to be able to brawl and get in there. If they end up in this, if they have anything like this, then the game, they already end up in a huge disadvantage. And I mean, at this point, because of my position, yes, I'm very much in the open. I think the IO wants to shoot me, the Bismarck wants to shoot me, but I'm angled towards them. I mean, yeah, they deal some damage, but whatever, I'm a battleship, I can take it. And in the meantime, I'm completely wrecking these cruisers from this different angle, and I even delete the Moskva. And this willingness to take damage, especially early on in games, is something that lacks very often in battleships. They sit back and snipe, and then when the majority of their team is dead, then they push in. But the problem with doing that is that you can no longer reverse, you can no longer disengage. You notice after I pushed into B, I disengaged. I sail away from the enemy to get some heals going and regain some of my health. And if you push in at the end, like this Iowa is doing, this is already pretty much the end of the game. This is quickly moved to end game because they lost so many ships so early. If you do it like this Iowa or this Bismarck is doing, you no longer get the chance to disengage because there's no one else left for you to hide behind, no one else left for you to tank the damage, to help support you in any way. So they don't get the same value. You might notice that we're only 8 minutes into the game. I've already burned through 3 of my heals. I'm on my last heal coming up now. And I've been continually using these pretty much every cooldown. And even though it looks like, yes, I've tanked a lot of damage, but once again, not a big deal because I am a battleship. And this constant taking of the damage, like absorbing it for my team, and being able to heal up constantly also means that the amount of effective health I have in a battle is more than the effective health of all these other battleships. Simply because they have time to use one heal, and before they can use the second heal, they die. Whereas I've been able to blow through all of my heals. I do overturn here a bit. I consider this a mistake. I overturn a bit here. And considering I'm really not used to the fact that, well, I'm running the secondary build still on this Friedrich der Große. And I don't really recommend the secondary build. As I said, this is something I only run for the Russian server, for the lulz, this secondary build. I prefer the tank build much more. So I forget to select this Bismarck as a secondary target. And I do feel like I miss out on some high amount of potential damage. I select him as a target now, but that's a bit too late. He could have been eating my secondary damage this whole time, but it honestly a bit late on that. But this guy is getting wrecked, and he is melting to both my secondaries and my main guns. The Essex, once again, carrier as well, hasn't really had time to have that much of an impact. That's another thing that happens when you push in aggressively. Carrier players don't have enough time to have that much of an impact on the game. The shorter the game, the less of an impact the carrier has. Whereas a full 20-minute game, they have time to farm and do constant damage and deal huge numbers. Whereas in these short games, well, they don't really have time to do much. Once again, I wait until I get a double fire, then I blow my repair. Although, with this little health left and no heals left, if the fire would have been taking for a longer time, I would have probably used the repair. But it's always worth waiting for that double fire before blowing it. And I do finish off this Bismarck, who tries to disengage, but as I said, he could only really use one heal during that entire fight, and the game ends in our very quick victory. Only 6 planes shot down, 3 kills. The only heroic award I get is Dreadnought, but for a battleship, that's not a bad reward to get at all. That means, well, hello there, you've been doing your job. 159k damage, once again, not that impressive, but let's look at team score. 2.1k, once again, not the craziest amount, but I wanted to show the impact you can have just by being an aggressive pushing battleship, especially when the enemy team doesn't have one. When you saw the way that their enemy Izuma, he was actually part of the division with that Z-46 and with that Moskva. But instead of pushing up with them and helping them and basically acting as a counter to me, he turned away. He wanted to sit in the back and snipe while the cruiser and the DD took the heat. And you can't do that when someone plays the way I do, because, well, I'm more than happy to punish them both and force them to flee. And that meant the whole A side of the map collapsed, and when the whole A side of the map collapsed, then we could push all that fleet into B, and suddenly, like, the enemy team just got boxed in and crushed. You can't abandon flanks in World of Warships. When you abandon flanks, you end up getting boxed in, which is exactly what we saw happen to this enemy team, and how quickly, like a domino effect, the enemy team collapsed afterwards. And of more important, of course, detailed report. Potential damage, 2 million. The time spent in battle, 10 minutes, 21 seconds. So 10-minute game, 2 million potential, and the damage received 131,000. Pretty much blew every heal on cooldown until the game ended. And I mean, damage taken, pretty much a mix of everything and everyone shooting at me, and which is kind of what I want. But the impact, even though the XP might not be as representative of the impact that I had on this game, anyone who watched it clearly saw what kind of impact this kind of bully aggressive battleship does have. And finally, we have, of course, the XP, which is, I'm not really running any flags, I'm just leveling this guy. Now, there's 2 different builds you can run. The secondary build that I featured in my last one, or, well, honestly, I run my Bismarck build. But I don't really recommend it on the Friedrich der Große. I actually recommend running my tank build, which is the one I run on the Große Kurfürst. And I can link it below in a comment. I'll link both of them, and you can pick and choose one. But personally, I think the tank build is much better. But the secondary build is quite humorous, and it's something I run on the Russian server, mostly for the lulz. And of course, it makes my stream probably more fun to watch than the more try-hard oriented tank build. Anyway, that was all from me. I hope you enjoyed this brief demonstration of how much one single battleship can impact the outcome of the battle. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys later.